I think wet-led pubs have really struggled, and like you said, it's not really my business, so it wouldn't be necessarily something that I'm an expert on. I would find it very challenging to say that all pubs could operate like that, though. I think food for some of these pubs is the primary thing they do. I mean, my business has gone from overnight paying £3,000 a year to £23,000 a year, which, quite simply, to put that into perspective for a small business like mine, that's more than we take in a month. We simply don't operate with those level of profits. And to cover that increase, we don't have enough cash in the business. You know, I've worked out it's going to cost me £125 a day to turn the heating on alone in winter. That's going to turn small profit-making midweek days into huge loss-making days. I mean, talking of pubs and beer, it's going to cost me £2 an hour to cool draft beer. I sit 22 people in my bistro. How's that even viable? The commercial solution for me for hospitality is obvious, simple and deliverable. We need an energy price cap from Liz Truss, and that needs to be at yesterday's rate, not tomorrow's rate. It's little or no use to me freezing it at the tip of the iceberg. And VAT needs reducing on food to 5% and 10% on alcohol. And the overhaul antiquated business rate system is key as well. But those types of VAT cuts are things that we've been campaigning for since pre-COVID. This is a new solution to an old problem. But business needs security. We need 1 and 2 year plans, and we deserve more than sticking plasters on broken legs like COVID. If these plans are only from the next quarter from Liz Truss, then it's simply not good enough. She's a PM for me who's going to be judged on one thing, and that's energy and energy alone. Yeah. And if this support isn't good enough, it's going to be like trying to bail the Titanic out with a teacup.
James, what have you been doing in the meantime? We are expecting to hear something from Liz Truss tomorrow, but are you putting prices up? Are you opening for shorter hours? Kind of what have you done to try and mitigate against these, for you particularly, astronomical price rises?
Well, as a business, we've already been dealing with inflation running at nearly 10%. You know, I've got suppliers putting price increases on me week on week for anything between 7 and 11%. These prices are changing week on week. Like I said, prices to me used to hold for 3 to 6 months, sometimes even a year. So it's a real moving picture at the minute. And it's not just as simple as putting prices up, because I've already had to do that due to inflation. You can price yourself out the market. And I think certain guests will come to a point in restaurants where it's not that they can't pay. You know, they simply won't pay even if they can, because it just becomes far too expensive. And I look at plates of food. I know the produce we use is fantastic. And I look at them and think, God, do we really have to charge that? That's a lot of money for that dish. And I know what goes into it. I'm thinking that guests must pay.
I totally get what you're saying then. At the end of the day, money talks, and people will go and there'll be, 4 of them, and they'll say, we'll go out for Sunday lunch or whatever. And then they see a bill. Goodness knows how much it'll jump by. But what would you charge for a Sunday lunch? A roast potato, beef and Yorkshire pudding, whatever it is. Whatever you serve up for your Sunday lunch, what would that be?
I mean, it's not something we do as a business, but that type of food is something I've certainly seen increase in the local area. But my most popular main course, now this isn't necessarily increase to the customer, but that's cost me 35% more to make in the last 12 months. We don't make enough margin on those dishes.
What is your popular course?
We do lots of charcuterie and cheese sharing boards. So we're a bit of a bistro that serves tapas, cured meats and cheeses.
Yeah, OK. So that's cold. That's a cold dish served there. And what would that cost?
So that's gone up in cost to me for 35%. But if you look at my business over the last 5 years, that dish was £22.50 5 years ago. Over the years, it's now £37.50.
Yeah,
and should even be over £40. I mean, it's inordinate.
I'd give it a miss. I would give it a miss. Don't go anywhere, because there's political things happening, and the International Trade Secretary turned up late for school today, Kemi Badenoch. We go to Tom Harwood. We'll be coming back to you, James, very, very shortly. Here he is at Downing Street. Tom?
Yes, the front door to Downing Street has closed. All of the new cabinet ministers are now inside the building, and Kemi Badenoch was the last one to walk through that door 21 minutes after the first cabinet meeting of Liz Truss was meant to begin. I asked her as she was walking in whether this means that the trade deals that the United Kingdom is expected to do this year, for example, the Indian trade deal that Boris Johnson promised would be done by Diwali, I asked, would that be late too? She didn't reply. But yes, now it's safe to say that this first cabinet meeting of Liz Truss is underway, and we will get back to you as soon as we hear any readout from what they're discussing.
Speak shortly, Tom. Thank you very much indeed. Finally, James Olcock, owner and chef, Pig and Whistle in East Riding, with what we were talking about there. Tom, I always say about lots of things that will be priced out of existence or people want closed and whatever, bad for the hospitality industry. How much will society miss you when you're gone, and how close are you and your colleagues from going?
I mean, I'll need some sort of support from government, but I'll obviously make changes internally. If you were talking to me last week, I'd have been talking about the recruitment crisis. I've been looking for a full-time member of staff now for 18 months. That's obviously on pause, and that's going to plug some of the gap, but not all of it. And this is far more than just cooking creatively. We are going to need support from the government. But let's not forget, this isn't just some tin pot industry. 1 in 10 people work in hospitality. We contribute £12.1 billion in wages. We can't and won't be ignored. And the high street would be a very sad place without these restaurants. We work in the community, lots with food banks. We do more than just a business. We're the lifeblood of the community for lots of people.